Hey everyone, so before we get into today's video, I want to take a minute to talk about an organization that I am partnering with, the Raiden Science Foundation. The Raiden Science Foundation is a research organization aiming to overcome traditional research by finding advanced treatment for UBA5 disorder, a debilitating and ultra-rare genetic disease. This is an ultra-rare genetic disease with about 50 diagnosed children worldwide. This leads to limited research within the field of medicine, but that's not going to stop the Raiden Science Foundation, as the research they're accelerating today will have a scalable impact across other rare diseases tomorrow. And they've even partnered with several other fighting game community members, such as Maximilian Dude. I've had the wonderful opportunity to speak with Tommy about this organization, and his son, Raiden's story impacted me so much that I wanted to do something about it with you all. By visiting the link down below, you can make your contribution and donate to the organization today. Your donation will help advance scientific discoveries and cures for stuff like UBA5. I'm really happy to be partnering with the Raiden Science Foundation, and all future videos and live streams will have this link implemented into either the description or in the overlay for my live streams. Together, we can be the spark of hope that can help people with UBA5. Thank you, and let's get to the video.
Fight!
Good morning, afternoon, and evening everyone. Nick here, and welcome to, or welcome back to the channel. It's been quite some time since we've done an installment of All Costumes Ranked, and it's about time that we return to it, covering our first female fighter of the Mortal Kombat franchise, Sonya Blade. Introduced in Mortal Kombat's inception back in 1992, she is considered one of the staples of the entire franchise, only missing out on like 2 of the games, and in one of those games, she's only a cameo. For her impact in the franchise, being the leader of the Special Forces faction and being in almost every single title, it is surprising to know that she only has 21 costumes to cover. And of her 21 costumes, which ones are the best and which ones are the worst? Today we're going to be figuring that out together, but since it's been a while since I've covered this series, we're going to go through the ground rules real quick, just once again. Now for costume appearances, I'm only going to be going off of where it had originated. So for an example, the MK3 design has showed up in the MK11 and in MK1, so I'll just be basing off where it originally came from, which is MK3. And secondly, I'm only going to be covering the games, so we're not going to be seeing anything from MK Annihilation or anything from like the Battle of the Realms or Scorpion's Revenge. But if the movie costume did appear in the game, that's fair game. And to make this a lot easier, I'm not going to be factoring any gear pieces at all for any of these costumes. And lastly, we're not going to be including any story exclusive costumes here. So like the end with Mortal Kombat 1 with that weird like Black Dragon Sonya Kano hybrid, that's not going to be included. We're just going to stick to ones that you can unlock in the story, or just ones that you do get to play as in any of the games. I will say that we are going to be covering one of them that is exclusive to a story, and that's for Shaolin Monks. Even though that she's not playable, you can run into her. And with all of these rankings, I'll try to include something positive even about the ones that I rank low. And if you do disagree with me, that's okay, just don't be a jerk about it in the comments. We're allowed to disagree with each other, and at the end of the day, let's just have fun with this, okay? And with that, let's get in formation and rank all 21 of Sonya Blade's costumes from the worst to the best. Picking the worst Sonya costume was not easy. I find many of them to be great and pretty solid designs, but the ones at the very bottom of the list are ones that I find more forgettable than bad. Of the 21 costumes, my least favorite goes to her base design from Mortal Kombat X. Why? Well, it's the most generic and bland of her designs. The military uniform doesn't look very unique, like something many other generic military characters would wear. Secondly, because of the color scheme of MKX, it looks very desaturated where nothing really pops. I do think the military fit does suit Sonya well, pun intended there, but there aren't too many elements that make it feel like it's Sonya's own. Down the line, we'll see some better costumes that are more uniform. At number 20, we're going from the US of A to the USSR with the Motherland Russian skin. This one is just a bit weird, honestly. Like, I get what they're going for here, doing a what if of these characters and also paying tribute and respect to the Russian MK community. It's just interesting that they did this to a character most associated with the United States Special Forces going Russian. She's dressed like a Bond villain and is drastically different than any other design. It's fine, I don't have a whole lot to say about it. It doesn't do anything that I love, and at the same time it doesn't do anything that I hate. Just an interesting costume. Thankfully, the other Cold War skins were given justice better than this one, as we'll discuss in some future videos down the line. Number 19, and we're looking at more uniforms, this one coming from Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance with Sonya's alternate design. First things first, I do appreciate the fact that it goes to something instead of like a navy blue or gray, and goes with like a sand color with a green beret. Also, the touch of green is a nice tribute to her classic color. I even can appreciate some of the gold accents in there with the white, and I even like the badge that she has on her chest too. Unfortunately, this one is pretty overshadowed by her primary design, which is pretty solid, but I would like to see this come back in some way or reimagined in the future. Honestly, this costume is pretty cool, it's just one that I never used back in the day when I played as her. It's kind of hard to rank these ones. It's like similar to like Johnny Cage's like sharp dress suit or whatever. It has to do something to make it stand out. It's still kind of in that like generic military thing, but I do appreciate it does something to make it stand out by adding the Special Forces bracers on the arms. Without that, this would have been a lot lower on the list. But at the end of the day, this is a good one. Would love to see it reimagined and show up in a future Mortal Kombat. At number 18, we're looking at our first costume from Mortal Kombat 11, the blading variants. This one could have been super cool, and it could have been an amazing callback to her UMK3 design, but it does one major problem with its base color. By that, it reminds me of MKX, and it really desaturates the hell out of it, making it look super ugly. This is just a big reminder that the choice of color can really make or break a good design. Like, the bones of this are really good, but the choice of colors are just what kind of break this apart for me. But don't worry, we'll get another faithful recreation of the MK3 costume somewhere down the line. But for now, this blading one is more dull than anything. This early in the ranking, and we've already got the base design for Sonya in MK11, the General of the Army variants. Now, this is pretty identical to her base design from MKX, but there are a few minor things that do improve this costume, helping it move up a few more spots. For one, there are some added accents to the design thanks to MK11's graphical leap and the art style, and secondly, the color really pops so much with this one. It's crazy how two little things can go so far. Now, I know there are some people who really don't like this design that much, such as the Uncommon Oddity and Kenny Bomb, who wants to cancel this like Christmas, but it's not that bad. I think it looks pretty alright. At the end of the day, it's still another generic military uniform, but at least this one suits her a bit better. Okay, last suits joke, I promise.
Corporate needs you to find the differences between this picture and this picture. They're the same picture.
So numbers 16 and 15 are nearly identical, close to being the same exact costume. Not really sure why they did this, and all it did was just make my job a little bit harder, but also leaving for a perfect setup for that Office reference right there. The only real differences between these two costumes, Tournament and Major Blade, is that it really just comes down to the vest and the camo pants. Tournament has the camo ones, where Major Blade is just the solid black vest, gray shirt, and pretty much the MK9 design just with a shirt. There aren't too many big differences when you look at this at quick glance, but I'm just going to give the Tournament the edge as it has some extra details in the design with the suit and the vest, along with some elbow pads to make it stand out a little bit more. Honestly, this is just a weird example of quantity over quality when it comes to costumes for MK characters. At number 14, we've got another MK11 variant, this being the short fuse variants. This takes some elements from the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, but mixing it with some Sonya Blade elements from the First Lieutenant variants. By that, it borrowed the color scheme for what could have been a really cool looking costume. Seriously, why is this so grayed out? It could have looked so much cooler if there was some pop of color to it. However, I'll admit that it has some good bones to it. Like, I do think that the unzipped jacket looks nice, taking it from another Sonya Blade costume, and I do like how they decided to go with one costume that has shorts instead of pants. But just in terms of color design, I think it could have been a little bit better, which, speaking of, number 13 goes to her Blue Thunder variants. This one is a fun fusion dance of Short Fuse and the General of the Army variants, taking the pants from the General of the Army and taking the vest from Short Fuse, borrowing the unzipped jacket with the shirt underneath it. But the one thing that I do love about this one a lot is that it does nail the navy blue aspect to this one, hence the title Blue Thunder. Honestly, that pop of color that really matches that military look of Sonya in this game really does wonders for this design, looking way more combat ready than the General of the Army and a lot more presentable in terms of color than Short Fuse. What can I say? Color really does help a bunch with these. And at number 12, we've got the closest recreation of the MK9 design in Mortal Kombat 11, the Army Navy variants. This is pretty much a retread of Short Fuse, General of the Army, and Blue Thunder that we had just looked at. This time around, it does something a little bit different, removing the First Lieutenant jacket from that design and giving it the Short Fuse shorts. On top of that, it really borrows that color palette from General of the Army, and as a result, you get a pretty good looking design. Now, I do think that the arms are a little bland and it could use a little bit more to make it pop, maybe like a bandana on the sleeve or something. I thought that would have looked cool, but it's still a pretty solid as hell costume. It has that kick-ass effect to it, and it even has some sex appeal to it too, which I think looks pretty nice. Oh, and speaking of bringing up MK9, number 11, and we've got Sonya's base design. Yeah, quite possibly one of the more unique military costumes. A few of the standouts that I do like are the leggings and the combat boots, along with the hair resembling her classic look from MK3. And the one thing that really makes this feel like it's a time capsule is the vest with no shirt underneath it. Now, I know that Mortal Kombat 9 was really emphasizing and going back to like the sex appeal of MK2, where a lot of the characters and ninjas looked like they were wearing some style of swimsuit. That's why you got to see a lot of these like very sexual looking costumes, focusing a lot more on style rather than function. But honestly, I think it looks good. Now, I know that the approach that NRS has when it comes to costumes has very much changed, and we probably wouldn't see a design like this in the future, but I still think it's a pretty good design overall. Even if I can fully admit that a lieutenant wearing a vest with no shirt underneath it into combat, doing that bouncing pose to throw them off is kind of funny when you really think about it. Looks like someone's taken some modes from Mai Shiranui. But in the end, pretty solid and iconic for that reason alone. This costume has plenty of its fans, and I know a lot of people put this in their top 5. I still think it's a really good design, but there are plenty of other ones that I do prefer over this one. So with that, let's get into the top 10. Lacing up at number 10 are the First Lieutenant variants from Mortal Kombat 11. This was the primary design for the past Sonya in the MK11 story, and honestly, replacing this over the Lieutenant one from MK9, I thought was a risky call, but I think this looks pretty good, honestly. Some of this reminds me of the General of the Army variant, along with the Deadly Alliance base design, that being the shorter cropped jacket and the sleeves being rolled up. I also like the addition of the shin pads too, having her come off a little bit more armored and ready to fight. However, my biggest complaint with this one, similar to blading and Short Fuse, why did they settle on this color palette again? Seriously, if they decided to pay tribute to like classic Sonya and implement some more like green or something like that, that would have put this up in the top 5. But just going off of this one, I still think a lot of the elements look really good. Just my biggest complaint, change the damn colors, come on. At number 9, we're looking back at Mortal Kombat 9, looking at her alternate design. This one really reminds me more of her island-bound design from the 1995 film, with a few additions sprinkled here and there. The obvious ones being the aviator sunglasses and the military cap, which are wonderful additions to this costume. Along with that, they even change up the color a bit, so the pants are now green and the top is white. And because it was the sign of the times, and because they want to remind you that this is Mortal Kombat 9, there are 2 big factors to this costume that many people really like. Just you take a guess to find out what those are. Jokes aside, it's a really good costume. As we move ahead, we will see more costumes that use this as a structure, but the other ones I feel are done much better. Also, random fun fact before we move on, outside of gear pieces, this is the only Sonya Blade costume that has glasses. That's really all I've got. Moving on. Jump back to 1992 where it all started. At number 8, we're looking at the MK Classic design. Character designs back in the day were pretty limited as we didn't have have heavily detailed or highly detailed designs and such like that. So when you have a roster of someone who just looks like a discount Bruce Lee, a knockoff of Bloodsport, and 3 pallets of ninjas, you have a really effective looking fighter with just a green outfit. For how limited this design is, I think it's really good. Now I know many people have made the joke in the past that it just looks like Wii Fit Trainer about ready to murder somebody. It was also a wonderful treat that this was included as the cameo design in Mortal Kombat 1, and my favorite little detail that was added in the redesigned version is that it has Blade written on her shoes. Honestly, if they ever make those a thing, I'd definitely get myself a pair. But despite this costume's limitations, it's still very effective at what it's trying to do. Flying in at number 7 is the 8th installment in the franchise, Mortal Kombat vs. DC, looking at her base design. This one borrows a lot of elements from some previous Sonya designs, and it's crazy enough that some future Sonya designs would take some inspiration from this one. It retains the ponytail from the MK3 design, retains the beret from the alternate design from Deadly Alliance, includes the military combat pants from the Deadly Alliance base design, and opts in for a crop top that was used in the Mortal Kombat movie and would be used in the alternate design for MK9. And even the straps around her arms are a nice little inclusion that make it look more battle ready. Not really sure about the choker there, that just makes it look a little bit more interesting. Also, anyone else notice that she has like bikini bottom tan lines around her waistline? I've never seen anyone talk about that before. Definitely a choice. All of these pieces put together would make this seem like it's just a weird Frankenstein design, but it actually nails it and it's very effective. For a game that many people try to pretend never exists, this is actually a pretty solid design that I'd love to see reworked in a future title. But for now, it's exclusive to the weirdest title of the franchise. At number 6, we're targeting things for Termination by looking at Action Heroine. As part of the Terminator bundle in Mortal Kombat 11, this sees Sonya Blade turn into Sarah Connor, more inspired by Linda Hamilton's design in the Dark Fate film that came out around the time of Terminator's launch. This one has a really nice battle-ready vest to it, and I even love the combat boots, and it even changes up how the combat pants even look. It's a really good and faithful adaptation of the design, and it also fits Sonya Blade super well. But this is not the last of the movie-themed skins that we'll be looking at, so let's say hasta la vista to this one and move on to our final movie costume. At number 5, we've got the 1995 costume, also known as Island Bound. On top of just faithfully recreating the costume from the Kano fight scene in the movie, it also does something extremely unique and exclusive to just this Sonya costume by replacing the voice actor and the face model, replacing it with Bridget Wilson, known as Sonya Blade in the movie and the hot teacher from Billy Madison. Though it's a very simple and basic design, just black combat boots and a black tank top, I still love it. Very simple, and it's extremely referential. And on top of that, it is a wonderful treat that even if you play every single one of these intros, all of these have Sampras' charm and wit to them. She's not trying to recreate all of Ronda Rousey's takes as Sonya Blade. It feels like she's making them her own. And if you're not a big fan of this one, she'll just give you a break, the same one she gave to Kano. A big surprise to many of you, but number 4, we're going to be looking at Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. Now, even though that she wasn't playable in this game, she does have a brief moment in the story, and technically there are 2 designs with this. One is the official render that you can find in MK Warehouse, and the other is the in-game design, which look pretty different. For this year, I'm just going to be looking at the in-game design to make it a little bit easier, and it's also the better one if you ask me. I do like how it's a really nice modernized take, well, modernized at the time, of the MK2, MK3 style, taking even some elements from Deadly Alliance, giving her a cropped jacket with a cropped top, even opting out the green and black pants for some camo pants with some combat boots. And my favorite thing they do is that they retain the hair from the arcade era by making it the ponytail once again. Even though we briefly see this one in the story in like maybe 2 cutscenes, it's still a very solid design. Moving ahead one more spot at number 3, we're going to be looking at one that does this style even better, and that's the Deadly Alliance base design. Both of these designs are pretty similar, having similar jackets, but the difference with this version, it has a lot more on the sleeves. Sonya now decided to opt out of a ponytail and just have her hair flow, but it still has the headband from MK1 retaining that little charm from the arcade classic. And we now have black combat pants instead of the camo camo ones. Honestly, this is one of the more underrated Sonya designs of all time. If they decided to make this her base design moving forward for future Mortal Kombat games, I wouldn't be upset. That or at least bring this back with this color palette, not whatever they did in MK11. If I really had to complain about anything, once again with the MK vs DC one, I'm not sure about that choker, but you know, whatever. Not gonna king shame her. Either way, this one's taking the bronze medal. Our runner-up and a surprise comes from Mortal Kombat 4/Gold. Sonya's design in this game looks really good. It's a really solid redux of her MK3 design, instead just opting in for some more like military combat stuff. Those include the leg thing that she has there. She has a little bit more pops of military green instead of that bright green. She's now wearing like a combat sports bra instead, and she's now wearing a hat, something we don't see that often in Sonya Blade designs. Even though that really only 3 colors pop in this one, being army green, black, and a little accent of white, it's very effective with just getting away with those colors. Yet for another game being trashed on by the community and one that was just early growing pains of going 3D, they really nailed it with the Sonya design. Kind of a shame that this one never came back in Mortal Kombat X or 11. That really would have been a perfect opportunity for that one to shine. And I do have a hunch for why that could be, and that's because it's overshadowed by our number 1 spot and another classic design. And no surprise to anyone, but our number 1 spot goes to Carrie Hoskins. No, not just the MK3 design, just Carrie Hoskins. This took a lot of notes from her MK Classic design and just refined it. It still retains the belt with the silver circles on it, now changed the hair to have a ponytail with a black headband on it, and it really opted in by including some more white to it, making it pop so much. And another addition that I do really like with this one are the earrings. I don't know why, it's just a little accent, attention to detail that just makes it look super nice. It was also a wonderful treat to see this costume make its appearance in Mortal Kombat 11 and show up as an alternate costume for her cameo in Mortal Kombat 1, which, in case if you were curious, is my go-to design when I choose her as my cameo. Now, my bias may be showing a little bit here, but this was the first time I had ever seen Sonya Blade in anything, and I always thought that this was like the de facto perfect Sonya Blade design. And after looking at many of the comments leading up to this one, a lot of people thought this was a really good design. It was also a wonderful treat to see Carrie Hoskins reprise this design for Instagram in 2020, showing she can still rock this amazing design. Also, side note, happy birthday, Carrie. For that, the MK3 design is not only the most iconic Sonya Blade design, but it is the best Sonya design of all time. And there you have my ranking of every single Sonya Blade costume from the worst to the best. Which one was your favorite and which one was your least favorite? Be sure to let me know in the comment section down below, and let's have a fun discussion about it. And just once again, these are just my opinions. They're not the definitive rankings or opinions or anything like that. So please let's not harass me or anyone else who has differing opinions than you, okay? I'm happy to be doing all costumes ranked once again for Mortal Kombat characters, and as I had mentioned at the beginning of the year, I'm going to be branching out into other fighting games, looking at characters like Chun-Li, and I mentioned someone else from Tekken, so stay tuned for that. But I also did put in my Discord who people would like to see be covered from Mortal Kombat in all costumes ranked. Many of you voted for Jax and Kenshi, so let me know in the comments who you'd like to see first, as those two had tied. Also, we have T1000 coming out fairly soon, so I do want to do all guest characters ranked, all guest finishers ranked once again, and I would also like to do MK1 finishers ranked again for the 2025 update. Along with that, I am going to be covering more fighting games, more content, such as doing some more rankings for Street Fighter and doing something for Fatal Fury. Even if I'm not the best at it, I just want to learn how to play it because it's a fighting game that I have been looking forward to. And also for streaming, I am looking forward to playing Monster Hunter Wilds, which comes out at the end of this week, so stay tuned for that, as I'll try to be streaming that Friday with Rain, so stay tuned on our socials for that. Now, I do have another video that does involve some audience participation, and that's covering weird guest characters in fighting games in general. So if you do have any weird guest characters, please pay attention to my community tab, as I'll be posting that question, and I want to be talking about ones that I found to be interesting and weird, and then I want to include a segment where I have your involvement in there, so be on the lookout for that coming soon. Also, if you have enjoyed the video, please consider dropping a like, subscribing, and sharing for more. It truly means a ton, and you guys are the reason I keep doing all of this stuff. It's a lot of fun, and I just love being on this fun journey with you all. As always, thank you so much for your continuous support. My name is Nick, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Fight!